Hello and welcome back. Now that you're here, we can talk about the insane developments of Chapter 264, which just might spell the final end of Sakuna and the ascension of our protagonist, Itadori Yuji. Right off the bat, I gotta tell you to hop in the comments and tell me how hyped you are for the chapter next week and what you thought of this one. Skip ahead if you just want to hear my thoughts and theories, but without further delay, let's get into the play-by-play summary. The chapter begins with Sakuna getting hit by the Jacob's Ladder massive laser, but he manages to smash the ground and create a pathway to reach Angel by jumping across the flying rubble. He intends to use Jacob's Ladder as a shield from Yuji and Toto so that he could kill Angel with no interference. Angel warns Hana Karusu to flee, reminding her that they have no defense, and since they lost their arm, the output of their technique isn't going to be enough to finish Sakuna off before he reaches them. Sakuna quickly bounces across the rocks while tanking Jacob's Ladder, flying straight up through the laser, readying his attack. He once again manages to focus and land a black flash, seemingly at will, but Toto jumps in the way and tanks the punch, which sends him flying to the nearby buildings. Toto and Hana are both still considerably damaged from this as they lay unconscious and bloodied, which leaves Yuji as the last man standing at the moment. This causes Sakuna to acknowledge Toto for his talent and bravery, as he declares him a true Jujutsu sorcerer. And as he shifts his attention to Yuji, he realizes that Yuji actually followed him through the Jacob's Ladder and up the path of rubble, and Sakuna is taken by surprise as Yuji is already right behind him before he can react. Yuji quickly slugs him in the face and takes advantage of his surprise by grabbing his legs and throwing him through several floors of a nearby building beneath them. Sakuna attempts to regain his footing and balance, but Yuji blitzes him and uses his shrine technique to spiderweb cut the ground, just like Sakuna did against him and Maki. Sakuna responds by sending a flurry of blows towards Yuji, which he manages to barely dodge before Sakuna regrows a new arm and lands a sucker punch on Yuji, revealing that due to his recent black flashes, he has now recovered his reverse curse technique output and regrows all of his arms on the spot, taking control of the battle and pressuring Yuji. As Yuji is blasted backwards, he attempts to spiderweb cleave the ground again, when Sakuna remarks that Yuji isn't a threat to him and decides to wait for his burnt out technique to recover. Yuji then dashes forward and attempts to cleave Sakuna's soul point blank, but isn't quick enough as Sakuna easily dodges, thinking that even if Yuji's soul cleave is deadly to him because of the binding vow to damage his soul, it won't matter as long as he can't make contact. Sukuna quickly starts pummeling Yuji with all four of his limbs before he senses something that startles him. We then see a flashback to Gojo's battle against Jogo in chapter 15, where he told Yuji that within a domain, the caster's stats are improved due to environmental factors. But most importantly, the caster's technique will always hit. As we snap back to the current moment, Yuji has already created his hand seal, and using barrier knowledge he gained from swap training with Kusakabe, Yuji casts his domain expansion. Within what seems to be Yuji's domain, or perhaps some sort of spiritual realm, they both appear within a train station, similar to the Season 1 intro, and Sakuna has a look of complete shock across his face as he realizes the soul cleaves are now guaranteed to hit him, and Yuji approaches him with a genuine smile on his face while Sakuna questions the situation, and Yuji says, "Come on Sakuna, let's go," as focus shifts to Sakuna, who is now identical to Yuji as he was before leaving his body. And the chapter comes to a close as the editor claims the decisive one-on-one battle heads into an uncharted domain. In the week leading up to this chapter, I assumed Sakuna would have been much more heavily damaged by Jacob's Ladder. But considering how Angel has been consistently stated to be out of fighting condition ever since she was injured by Sakuna, it does make sense that her output wouldn't be enough to stop the King of Curses, especially in the state he's in now. But she did allow for an extremely exciting scene of Sakuna racing up through the laser in a suicidal attempt to kill her before he lost control of Megumi's body, which paved the way for Toto to clutch up and have a hype moment, but also be temporarily removed from the fight in a respectable way to clear the field for Yuji and Sakuna's heavily anticipated 1v1. Yuji and Sakuna had a well-choreographed little scuffle for a few pages after Todo and Hana were taken out. At the same time, Sakuna regenerated and re-established his powers, so that it would be even more impressive when Yuji finally takes him on. Finally, we get the payoff to the scene where we first see Kusakabe and Yuji swap training, as Yuji uses very interesting hand seals that link him to a mythological keeper of souls and vessel for the earth, as he casts his domain expansion. Personally, I don't think that the train station itself is Yuji's domain, but a spiritual realm similar to the airport Gojo went to. And I think this is a dark parallel where we see Yuji gleefully ask Sakuna to come with him to hell. Now that Sakuna's arms have recovered, he has the ability to use Hollow Wicker Basket and protect himself from Yuji's shrine if the soul cleaves are his domain's sure hit technique. But it's also completely possible that blood manipulation is the imbued technique, since Yuji didn't have shrine until he landed those black flashes earlier in the fight. In which case, it would be interesting to see Yuji using red flowing scale and the environmental factors of the domain to buff himself to the point where he can dominate Sakuna with a rapid flurry of black flashes or any other powerful techniques. Let me know what you think Yuji's domain will do and look like. I'm very hyped to see the community response to this crazy reveal. When it comes to my personal rating of the chapter, I think that it was a pretty strong conclusion to the group battle that's been raging on for about a year now, and it's still possible for Maki, Meimei, and Hikari, and maybe some others, to rejoin the fight later if it comes down to it. But for the next few chapters, I expect this 1v1 to take center stage. For paying off Hana and Todo's contributions while still shifting focus to Yuji in a satisfying way, and breaking the whole community with that chilling ending, I've got to give this chapter at least a 9 out of 10. And I will be counting the days until we are inevitably trolled by a new Ryomen Hikari chapter and then 3 weeks of breaks. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and the new chapter. If you've made it this far, why not subscribe to get me one step closer to being able to support myself? But either way, I hope you stay safe and take it easy.